your eyes gazing upon me.
Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, adapted from Mary Shelley's titular novel, isn't the story of a monster you think you know. The monster isn't really the villain. He is the mirror. The movie uniquely portrays humanity through the lens of a man-made creature. The monster wasn't a beast born of rage, but of raw, emotional, and painful human loneliness. And as you see him stumble through a world that refuses to understand him, it gets more difficult not to see the reflection of your own. In today's world, we are after success and independence. Somewhere in between achieving all this, we forgot that we are also humans with emotions to tend to. But in the modern day, building a relationship feels like a battlefield of misunderstandings. While Elizabeth was simply the emotional anchor for the creature in Frankenstein, we know most of the story is driven by her tragic demise. But why would a woman choose a monster over a pompous scientist? Without wasting another moment, let's find out. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Frankenstein, the birth of a monster and the fall of a man. In a freezing night in the Arctic, the tale begins as Captain Anderson and his crew are stranded amid the ice caps. As the men struggle to get the ship out from the ice blanket, they hear an explosion. Following the trails, they found a wounded man. As they were rescuing him, they realized they were not alone in the middle of nowhere. Something unknown was lurking in the shadows. When it appeared, the only way they could describe it was as a creature, a human figure, but too disfigured and powerful to be called a human. It was immune to gunshots and dynamites, while also having the capacity to regenerate itself. Turns out, it was the creation of the man they rescued, Dr. Victor Frankenstein. The creature almost dismantled the ship in its attempt to get Victor. Its target was Victor, and to get him, he was ready to overthrow every man who came in front of him. They were able to drive off the creature for a moment when Victor unfolded the story of his creation.
It will come back and kill many more. All of you, if necessary, unless you...
Victor Frankenstein was a young boy with a scarred past and the brilliant idea to bring life from death. He couldn't ever accept his mother's death, and from then on, he vowed to himself that he would change the conception of inevitable death. Since then, he became an obsessed scientist to conquer death and procured corpses to stitch them together to form a human body in a laboratory with dissected corpses lying around. His research and experiments were funded by Heinrich Harlander, who wanted Victor to find a cure to his last stage syphilis. Over time, Victor achieved his goal and gave life to death, but his initial happiness was short-lived as the creature behaved like a child. Like a baby, it was bewildered by the world and showed no sign of intelligence. Naturally, Victor thought he had failed and mirrored his angry father by beating and locking up the creature in a dark corner of the castle. Victor believed that his experiment had failed, and he had ended up creating a mindless monster. But his tipping point came after he sensed Elizabeth's soft spot for the creature, and so his disdain towards the creature increased even more. He simply couldn't accept that Elizabeth was empathetic towards the monster, but not toward him. Moreover, when he realized the creature could regenerate and heal from wounds, Victor decided to burn everything down to the ashes. But it turns out, the creature was intelligent enough to save himself. Eventually, he learned to read, kindness, and about the world from a blind old man who saw him for what he truly was, a lost soul, full of kindness in the search for belongingness. For a brief moment, he understood what it was like to be an actual human from the old man, and after his encouragement, the creature set out to find his true identity. But when he found out the truth, the creature was not happy with the cursed nature of his existence, and so he left to find his creator, Victor. Of course, the creator wasn't pleased to see his creation alive. Even at that moment, he was full of himself, and this narcissism got William and Elizabeth killed. Not just that, instead of taking accountability for his actions, Victor blamed it all on the monster. But the creature loved Elizabeth, and Elizabeth also found in him the kind of purity and kindness she had always sought. Unfortunately, Victor took that away from him when shot her while trying to kill the creature. Not only did he refuse to create a companion to rid the creature of his eternal loneliness, but also robbed him of the only person who had shown him warmth, love, and kindness. Elizabeth's death broke the creature, and since then, he decided to break Victor down to his core. In the final scene, when he finally encountered Victor lying on his deathbed, he revealed his side of the story, and that brought Victor back to his senses. He realized what his brother William said before dying was true, and he really had become a monster in the process of creating one. He admitted his mistakes to the creature, but he no longer addressed him as the monster. Victor called him his son and begged for his forgiveness. Now the creature always wanted this affection from his creator, and after he finally received it, he forgave him and went on his lone journey. Before leaving, he showed his final act of kindness to the captain and his crew by freeing the ship from the ice caps.
This hurt clung to my mind.
The Heart of Frankenstein is mirror showcasing the loneliness of the modern man. We live in a time where connection is supposed to be easier than ever. We have multiple dating apps and social media. Despite having access to countless ways of building a real connection and lasting love, it is somehow the most challenging thing to find. Today, this has resulted in a silent epidemic among men, which the internet has been calling the male loneliness epidemic. But what is the reason behind this epidemic? Let's take a look around us. Hundreds of men like Victor surround us. They look put together and well focused on their career. They are all busybodies trying to chase success and status, and to build a version of themselves that people will respect and look up to. They are so engrossed in their work life that they forget they also have a personal life to tend to. Emotional presence and attention for connection are too much to ask for. Their souls get dull under their workload to save anything for their love interest. Just like Victor. He liked Elizabeth, but not enough to respond to her with warmth. He liked the idea of her, but not the reality of her emotions. Whenever Elizabeth reached out to him, he was busy somewhere else. More important to him, he was lost in the pursuit of perfection and became obsessed with his creation. In this obsession, he forgot that feelings can't be manufactured in a laboratory, but somehow, the creature he manufactured had more feelings than he did. Even today, men are manufacturing monsters, but it's building inside them. Statistically, it has never been lonelier to be a man, and if you don't want to take my work for it, ask the internet. Surveys show nearly half of men say they have no close friends and also suffer from isolation and emotional numbness. Even after seeing these results, men are taught to act like Victor, who is an overachieving but nonchalant man, making one horrible mistake after another, only to never take accountability for it. The film is so frighteningly accurate because of this. Even Victor's rejection of his creation was used as a metaphor. He rejected the emotions and vulnerabilities his creation carried. To Victor, emotions did not matter. The only thing that mattered to him was intelligence. His father raised him in this way, and he followed the same route, despite hating what the man stood for. Even today, most parents and elders preach that boys never cry and should always be strong. It's not a very manly thing to do, so they inevitably learn to neglect their emotions and start trying to fit into the societal standards of a man. Later, when they grow up, we wonder why they are unable to form connections, love, and feel emotionally safe. Now we have a generation of men who are emotionally ghosted, not by others, but by their own selves. The more men try to overlook their feelings, the more they crumble inside. So when they finally reach their breaking point, they do not know what to do with the pain, because for them, pain isn't masculine, and vulnerabilities are embarrassing. They do not know how to cope with it, nor do they try to learn. Gradually, men are taking the same path Victor took. They work toward a single goal, but once they achieve, they don't know what to do about it after the moment has passed. Not just that, Victor loved his creation to be imperfect because it did not fit his ideal standards of perfection. But deep down, he knew that the creature Victor created expressed the yearning he never could. The creature showed his need to be seen and understood the depth of companionship better than any man raised in the toxic society. Society teaches men to earn everything. So even after achieving everything, when they are not idolized for it, they burn with rage. Bringing back the Victor reference, when he decided to burn down everything after he saw Elizabeth showing empathy and care towards the creature he considered to be a monster. Similarly, when men switch their emotional numbness into rage, they are seen to vent out their bitterness on women or the people around them. Suddenly, women are the problem, and they are blamed to have high standards, simply for asking the bare minimum. Naturally, More men are seen resorting to the red pill echo chambers in order to seek some sense of validation or approval.
I felt lonelier than ever because
Weaponizing loneliness. How the red pill movement feeds on male loneliness. The red pill movement is not just an ideology anymore, it has become a community built on shared loneliness. In these echo chambers, they are multiplying their negative thoughts, and some red pill influencers like Andrew Tate are turning that loneliness into a leverage. Men like him are twisting and monetizing the male frustration and aggression as empowerment. These people mostly spread problematic ideologies like men should take back control, they should gain respect through dominance, money and power. Tate openly degrades women in his podcasts, calling them manipulative, gold diggers, lazy, etc., suggesting that women only care about status and belong in the kitchen. The problem is that millions of young men are listening to these types of podcasts, following these people, and actually looking up to them. Gradually, these young men start copying their tones and mindset, and soon carry the same toxic worldviews towards women, where they feel empathy is overrated and relationships are more like power struggles. It's like a competition between who shows more dominance, who is more successful, and who has more money. They turn women into their opponents rather than their partners. Somehow, they feel too proud of themselves to change. Now, how does it impact the world? Online, they will bash women in the comments section, will get into petty fights with them, call them derogatory names and whatnot. But in relationships, they test women's loyalty, expect obedience, and treat every conversation like a debate. They expect their women to be more and devoid of opinions. Of course, when women push back against these types of men, they call them modern, ungrateful, and feminists, as if they are insults. This dynamic perpetuates the cycle of constant hostility and division between men and women. It is happening across every platform. Every post, every comment, and every podcast clip becomes another front in a gender war. Nobody is actually listening. Men feel more dismissed, and their egos get hurt. Women, on the other hand, feel more attacked. Both sides walk away angrier, get more defensive, and become less willing to connect, which only deepens the loneliness and detachment of the world. Why do women literally choose the idea of fictional monsters over the ideal men? For this particular topic, let us go back to Elizabeth's side of the story. It is tragic how her experience is still relevant today, because this was a woman who had no dearth of potential suitors. While Victor was an ambitious and successful scientist, William, her fiancé, was also making a name for himself in the finance industry. Both of them were interested in her and were, in fact, considered ideal men by society. They sounded admirable on paper, but behind their well-polished get-up, something empty lay. Victor was always consumed by his work and his ego. He liked Elizabeth for matching his level of intellect, but never tried to understand how Elizabeth valued emotional intimacy. He admired her mind, but never nurtured her heart. William, on the other side, was gentler, but emotionally shallow. For him, having a wife was like keeping her as a trophy, and neither of them truly ever explored their emotions. They moved through life with purpose, but without any depth. Elizabeth was always intrigued by life. She even cared for an insect. That's why the creature caught her eye. With one look at him, she understood what he truly was. Everyone else considered him a disfigured, unpredictable, and dangerous monster. But she saw that his eyes carried the purity no man did. She felt how raw his emotions were and understood the honesty in the way he felt and expressed his pain, confusion, and love. He did not have to hide behind his intellect or ego and felt everything deeply and openly. This misunderstood creature appeared untouched by society's rigid ideals of masculinity. He was not egoistic, not short-tempered, not violent, and not an emotional stone, which is what drove everyone to label him as a monster. The creature also wanted genuine connection and grew to care for Elizabeth before openly expressing his vulnerabilities to her. For someone who has spent her life surrounded by men who suppress their emotions, the creature's vulnerability felt like a world to her. She did not pity him, she understood him. She recognized his rage came from people misunderstanding him, and also realized that his pain came from being abandoned by his creator. In the lone world, he just wanted some to live life with him, but the world, when they saw him, immediately judged him by how he looked, this labelling him inhuman. But for Elizabeth, a supposed monster was more human than a man was supposed to be. So it made sense how she would literally fall for a misunderstood monster rather than a nonchalant man like Victor. With her dying breath, she confessed how she felt a lifetime of love with the creature in their short time together than she did with anyone else in her entire life. In a way, Elizabeth embodied the exact desires of women in the modern generation. If we look at the modern dating world, it's not that different. Women are not romanticizing fictional monsters because they crave chaos, but because they yearn to be heard in a world full of men like Victor and William. These so-called perfect men have got their jobs, cars, money, gym bodies, but when it comes to emotional connection, they freeze. In today's world, women can afford their material needs on their own. What they truly crave is an understanding partner who is emotionally available and supports them in their journey together. Today, dating has become like an exhausting task. Building a good profile, swiping left and right. All efforts and energy are spent here, so nothing remains for real-time interaction. So everything feels very surface level and lacks depth. That's why, like Elizabeth, women will instead choose so-called monsters because at least they show their passion and their weaknesses. They are choosing a man who listens with emotion and not logic, who may show up imperfectly but still show up. While finding that is difficult in today's world, they are still out there, and when they are found, they will be worth going through the trial of dating nonchalant, self-absorbed, emotionally numb men who refuse to put in the work or take accountability for their actions. All I can say is, Frankenstein isn't a gothic tale anymore. It's a mirror of our times. It shows us that it is emotional repression, not vulnerability, that dehumanizes us. Victor and William represented today's emotionally detached, nonchalant men, while the creature symbolized the raw, unfiltered humanity our society keeps telling us to run away from. In a world obsessed with control, image and perfection, both men and women are starving for something real. Del Toro's Frankenstein reminded us that connection doesn't come from power or perfection. It comes from presence. And if this movie is any example, we know that women would rather die saving a misunderstood monster than choose the company of a nonchalant prick of a scientist. But that's just my 2 cents. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.